from history. Over to you.
Thanks very much, Jason, for the introduction, and thanks for the invitation for me to share my research in this very important forum on the timely topic. So today I'm going to talk about whether pandemics can stimulate innovation and lesson from the history. So to begin, I'd like to share with you a number of deadest pandemic in the world in the history led by Black Death. So during the Black Death, about half or two-thirds of the population in Europe actually died because of it. So the beginning of the Black Death started in the 14th century, but it came back for a few times until 18th century. So actually, there's a coincidence right after the last wave of the Black Death, the the Industrial Revolution happened. Industrial Revolution regarded as the greatest leap in the history because if you look at a number of the key indicator for development, including the GDP per capita, which is a economic development indicator, or we look at the percentage of population living in a democracy, which is a social development level. Our society advanced substantially right after the Industrial Revolution. So a lot of historians actually conjecture that there is a certain link between the Black Death and innovation. Here I want to elaborate the channels, how exactly a particular pandemic can stimulate innovation. There are four possible channels. The first one is depopulation. Let's take England as example, the homeland of the Industrial Revolution. So the England may have lost about 70% of its population during the Black Death, and therefore the wages of workers were doubled or even tripled. This induced the demand of labor-saving technology. The second one is property right protection. So without private property right protection, people don't have a long vision and they don't want to devote to innovation. Right after the Black Death, landlords had to compete for peasants with wages and freedoms, which actually remark innovation that represents the roots of the early capitalism. The third one is the liberty of thoughts. So those the Black Death shaken people's faith in the church. So according to the author of this famous book, Distant Mirror, Barbara Tuchman, she argues that the Black Death marks the end of an age of submission and also the beginning of modern man. The fourth one is the gender equality. Because a lot of people die, there become more lands available for people to use. So a lot of peasants switched from crops to husbandry. So if the husbandry actually reduced demand for strength of upper body strength to push plow, so women can also participate in work. This change expanded the women's opportunity for work and increased their wages. So it looks like from the history of Black Death, we can see that there are two conditions for innovation. The first one is demand for new technology, and the second one is inclusive institution. This brings a new question, that is whether all the pandemics can push innovation. This time we use a sample of Africa as example, because historians were wondering why Africa was so slow in adopting technology. Let's take the plow as example. The plow was widely used in Middle East, but it took so long for African people to start using plow in their agriculture. So each time we look at a particular type of insect in Africa, which is just known as a tsetse fly, or in Chinese it's called cai cai yin. This particular type of insect is unique to the continent of Africa. It looks like the lat figure. So if livestock is bitten by this fly, they're gonna die because tsetse fly can transmit epidemic disease, which is lethal to livestock. But here we are talking about the tsetse fly distribution in the history, not about their distribution in modern time. So if you look at the third figure on the right, that is the distribution of the tsetse fly we estimated by using historical climate data, which is a key indicator, or no, I mean key determinants for the distribution of tsetse fly. We argue that the tsetse fly hold back modern innovation through three channels. So the first one is domesticated animals, because in a place, if there are a lot of this type of fly around, they can easily kill all the domestic animals, which are going to be a huge loss for the villagers, and therefore the local people are going to choose not to use draft animals such as cows. So this impedes adoption of transportation technology. Without cows, they possibly don't, or horses, they don't need any carriages or the modern road. It also impedes the agricultural technology. Because of the intensive tsetse fly in certain areas, people choose not to engage in intensive agriculture. Instead, they go for hunting or gathering. So they don't need the technology of agriculture, such as the usage of plow, harnessing the water power or fertilizer. The second channel is from the culture. The tsetse fly develop a culture of hostility towards innovation. That is because from their people's experience in Africa and from the history, because of the existence of tsetse fly in certain areas, choosing not to innovate sometimes can make their better off. For example, the villagers may face a choice between hunting and gathering or going for a more innovative way of life that is intensive agriculture. Or they can face either they're going to carry the goods by using the head carrying, like the figure we show on the right, or use cows to draft the carriage. Because of tsetse fly, the less innovative way of life, which I mean that is hunting or head carrying, also makes people always make people better off in the history. So that gradually develop a culture people choose not to innovate. The third one is a side effect of medicine. Once upon a time, the French colonial government sent a lot of medical campaigns to the villagers to give certain treatment of the people to cure the disease caused by tsetse fly. But the villagers don't want to take that treatment because the side effect was very strong, it's very severe, and sometimes actually is fatal. And therefore, the many doctors has to use their gun to force the local people to inject such treatments. And such experience developed a distrust towards Western medicines and technologies from the local culture. So all those three channels combined, we argue that the tsetse fly impede the modern development. We have a number of results, but here let's look at only one of the tables here. The TSI is our key independent variable. That is estimated historical tsetse fly prevalence or intensity and ethnic level in pre-colonial time. And the key determinant variable, key dependent variable that we have is innovation indicator, which is from the survey of modern enterprises. So the entrepreneurs were asked, have you ever invent a new product or adopt a new process of production in the past 3 years? So this dummy variable, 1 means the entrepreneurs want to pursue innovation and 0 otherwise. The results show that a 1 standard deviation increase in the tsetse fly intensity is associated with about 10% reduction in the firm's likelihood to innovate. So that shows from Black Death and from the tsetse fly disease, well, the impact on the innovation is different. Here I want to talk about the COVID-19. How about COVID-19? We all know that because of the needs of communication and also vaccination, there is increasing demand for information and medical technology. But here we want to talk about the innovation in general, whether COVID-19 can stimulate general innovation. Well, pandemics actually caused hothouse conditions in developing mistrust, especially the xenophobic culture. So people dislike foreigners and oppressive institutions, all of which we believe that can hold back innovation. So here I'm going to give you examples of those policies. The first one is intrusive and drastic intervention, such as promotion of unapproval treatment and indiscriminate lockdowns. Second one is propaganda that exaggerate the severity of pandemic in foreign countries, and media censorship for that forbidden free discussion on the effectiveness of certain vaccination. Third one is privacy and data protection, which makes certain people vulnerable for discrimination. And the fourth one is arbitrary changes to the election rules and an upsurge in police violence. So I would say some misguided policies can do more harm than the virus itself does. From the history of the Black Death, we know that inclusive institution during the pandemic is a precondition for innovation. But even the most optimistic type of people gonna feel pessimistic when they see what's going on during the pandemic. So the sum up will be, conclusion is here that the impact of COVID-19 on innovation is really depend on public policies. Either the government wants to choose inclusive policy or oppressive policy, gonna be the key determinants on the future's sustainable innovation subsequent to the COVID-19. So this is the end of my presentation, but in the very end, I would like to invite today's speaker. If you can make your speech to a research note, I welcome your submission to the GCEBS, which is a Q1 journal according to some ranking criteria, and is the official journal of the Chinese Economic Association in Europe and UK. So thanks very much for your attention. Thank you.